It's a symbolic moment. It's a moment of reflection, and I think in general the West can look back and say, well, the unity that the Russians probably felt wouldn't last has lasted. Good afternoon, John.
So it was a big surprise, this visit, and a very dramatic one.
It was indeed. There were murmurs of some strange activity over Polish airspace this morning. People who track flight radar noticed an unusual pattern of U.S. Air Force aircraft over Poland, and then suddenly the streets around the center of Kyiv were closed to traffic. And then somebody on social media posted a mobile phone image of a convoy rolling past through empty streets. So it had been pretty much dismissed that Joe Biden would attempt to go to Kyiv this week. He was going to go to Warsaw anyway, but there he was. He turned up unannounced in great secrecy this morning in Kyiv and held what looked like a very successfully choreographed meeting
Yes.
with Volodymyr Zelensky.
Yeah, I mean, the symbolism and the optics were very important, weren't they? As well as the announcement of another £500 million worth of military support.
Yes, I mean, this was the most graphic display of American solidarity and support. And I think it was a reminder as well for Joe Biden to say to the world, look, it's the American government which has been most fully behind Ukraine in terms of financial and military support, although he did stress that there is now a global coalition which has provided something like 700 tanks and 1,000 artillery pieces and so on. But really, this was to reinforce the notion that America would stand fully behind Ukraine, and as well to give Ukraine that sense of support, because he did say, and we heard it in your clip there, that there will be dark days ahead. Not just dark days and weeks, he said dark years ahead.
Yeah.
I think an acknowledgement that this is not going to end anytime soon.
And the presumption is that Joe Biden is on his way now to Poland for more scheduled talks there, which is going to be part of the business of, I don't know, shoring up and gluing together the coalition of support behind Ukraine, just as he has to do the same job domestically at home.
Yes, I mean, I suppose this is a rendezvous now for global leaders and everyone involved to take stock of the war as we approach the one-year anniversary on Friday. It's a symbolic moment. It's a moment of reflection, and I think in general the West can look back and say, well, the unity that the Russians probably felt wouldn't last has lasted. It's lasted politically. It's lasted militarily. Despite wobbles here and there, despite huge problems with energy inflation in Europe and the UK, there hasn't been a breakdown in European unity and Western unity when it comes to Ukraine. And that is almost now being institutionalized. We have the Ramstein meeting once a month. That's 50 countries or so that are committed to defending Ukraine. We have a regular system now of the EU providing rolling funding for the Ukraine to meet its monthly needs for salaries, pensions, hospitals, and so on. So I think this is now a stock-taking moment for the West to say, look, we have stood with you and we will stand with you for the months to come.
All right, Tony, thank you very much indeed. If you bear with us just for a moment, I'm keen to get your thoughts on another big story we're covering today. That is the UK-EU talks as they relate to Northern Ireland. We're waiting for those to come to some sort of point this week. Right now, though, I want to welcome Sir Lawrence Freedman, who's the Professor of War Studies at King's College London. Hello to you, Lawrence.
Hi.
What's your assessment then of the importance of this visit by the American president?
Well, I think it's been said, it's symbolic. The timing is important, almost a year to the day since the Russian invasion, which was supposed to leave Ukraine subjugated, a puppet government in Kyiv. Clearly that hasn't happened. President Putin is due to address his country tomorrow. I don't think this was done just to upstage him, but it provides a contrast and a demonstration as Putin tries to put the best face on what is a failed invasion, that Ukraine is still going strong with international support.
What are your thoughts on the level of support that's now being given to Ukraine as Russia steps up its military offensive? another $500 million from the USA. They've devoted £30 billion. Ukraine looking for more and more for obvious reasons. They've asked for jets, haven't been getting jets. They've asked for tanks, they've been getting some tanks. Is Ukraine getting the kind of military backup by way of equipment and ammunition that it needs in the face of the Russian offensive to come? And as far as we can gauge the force of that offensive.
Well, I mean, the Ukrainians will tell you they wished it had come earlier, and they are get frustrated that not everything that they want, including jets, comes as quickly as they would like, and even though it eventually these decisions are taken. But I think they're pretty pleased at the moment because slowly but surely they're getting the capability to mount their own offensive, which we're expecting, I think, weeks away at the moment, because at the moment they're coping with the Ukrainian offensive. Also, quite important in Biden's announcement was basic stuff, ammunition, howitzers, and so on, which is actually the main need, as much a need at the moment as the more glamorous things. And of course, there is a Russian offensive, which so far has been, I think the common word used is underwhelming. It's not quite what people expected, and unless the Russians sort this out quite soon, they're going to be hitting some pretty boggy weather, boggy conditions.
That's interesting. Now, the anniversary of the Russian invasion this week, it's more than just a date on the map. It's more than of just symbolic importance. The China government, the Chinese leader, is expected to set out something of a peace plan on that day. China's obviously an important player. Again, in as far as one can guess or gauge, what might that plan look like?
It's an intriguing question. I mean, the Chinese have, by and large, I mean, they provide some support to the Russians, but not as much as the Russians would like. I think they've been deeply unimpressed by what the Russians have done. And they've never, in a UN vote, supported the Russians. They've always abstained. So that they've kept the possibility of a mediating role. But it could, if they play it straight, put Putin in a difficult position, because as things stand, his demand requires that his forces take more territory, because he wants all the provinces of Ukraine that he's claimed. And he doesn't hold all that territory at the moment. So it may be that he will try what tends to be offered by would-be mediators, which is basically to go back to the position on the 23rd of February last year.
Yes.
I'm not sure that will fly, but if that's what he proposes, it would put quite a bit of pressure on both sides.
Yeah.
If he just starts talking ceasefires, I think the Ukrainians won't accept a ceasefire, nor the Russians particularly, while there's still territory they want to fight for.
But we'll set that against the reports, I think, out of America, apart from anywhere else, that China may soon get into the business of helping to arm Russia with supplies and ammunition. What does China want from this conflict?
I think China, I mean, the Secretary Blinken has sort of warned China not to do that. I mean, it's possible that they will. They're certainly providing some relevant goods, dual capable stuff, but not serious weaponry. I think there's limits to what they'll do there, but you never know. I think China's main interest is essentially to get this thing over. I think they find that they don't like the sanctions. They find themselves in a partnership with Russia, which was proclaimed just over a year ago, which has turned a bit sour because Russia has shown itself to be inept. And it's a bit embarrassing. So I think China would quite like to show that it can take an initiative that's positive. Meanwhile, I mean, they're doing quite well economically out of it, because Russia is a pretty desperate situation. So it's selling energy to China at a cut rate price. So in that sense, the Chinese are doing perfectly well.